This is Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News. First, the highlights. Fubara decries 90 lawsuits stopping housing project in Rivers. Tinubu pledges to sustain Buhari's legacy. PDP faults Supreme Court's verdict as dangerous for democracy. FG earns 12.81 trillion naira from exports in third quarter. U.S. Congressman warns Nigeria over worsening insecurity. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has decried that more than 90 lawsuits were filed in an attempt to frustrate his administration's plan to deliver decent and affordable housing for middle-income earners in the state. The governor made this known on Monday while inaugurating Phase 1 of the Greater TAFCT housing estate, located across Ikwere and Obiakwa local government areas, which has a projected 20,000 housing units and is being developed under the Greater Port Harcourt City Development Authority as part of a broader strategy to decongest Port Harcourt, the state capital. Fubara described the project as more than a housing scheme, adding that it was conceived during one of the most challenging periods of his administration. But at the inception, several individuals laid ownership claims to portions of the land, alleging non-payment of compensation. According to him, the project was deliberately targeted with multiple legal actions aimed at halting its progress, and expressed appreciation to traditional rulers and community leaders who stood by the government to ensure the realization of the vision. Also speaking, the acting administrator of the Greater Port Harcourt City Development Authority, Bennett Chu, described the 20,000 unit affordable housing initiative as a long-standing dream now becoming a reality, adding that the memorandum of understanding was signed on December 2nd, 2023, followed by the groundbreaking ceremony on December 15th, 2023, and thanks Governor Fubara for entrusting the authority with the supervision of what he described as a legacy project, offering hope to low and middle-income earners. Pro-Chancellor Ignatius Ajuri University of Education in Port Harcourt, Dr. Chinyere.
For indigenes of Run Ndele.
Then the other issues we raise has to do with employment. Lectureship is like garbage in, garbage out. The university is looking at how to produce quality students. How do you get quality students? Quality lecturers. It's not because one man from Free has applied for lectureship, he must be given. No. If he goes for the test and does not do well, he is disqualified. But all I was saying is, within that content of non-understanding, if you were to give us 10, it's okay, we will take at least 5 of them that are really qualitative. We'll take them. And they explain to us, no problem, we'll take it like that.
The Pro-Chancellor Ignatius Ajuri University of Education, Dr. Chinyere Igwe, also led the team to the satellite campus at Ndele for inspection and on-the-spot assessment. Acting Vice-Chancellor Professor Okechukwu Onuchukwu eulogized the efforts of the staff while explaining the process of building and developing the school.
One of the buildings here is handled by that contractor, and they are moving at a very serious speed. And we hope that in less than no time, the building will be completed, and then you will have faculty of vocational and technical education, and then you have faculty of one into their own faculty degree. Like we were saying, as we were coming, we just interacted. He made a suggestion that, look, some departments that are related to agriculture can also come here. You know, we had resource education for microbiology, zoology. So zoology that is very close to us, you can also come here. Yeah.
Also, Pro-Chancellor Ignatius Ajuri University of Education, Dr. Chinyere Igwe, also spoke on the need for more hard works from the staff.
We are also that we are sent to Ndele to help us come out human resource that can transcend any level of development, be it at the state level, the national or international level. At the grace of God, I have seen, if for nothing, these chairs being fabricated in this center. Please clap for yourself. chairs that are fabricated by contractors in other institutions, in other places, I can beat my chest and say that what we are producing here will meet the test.
I am Happiness Felix, Atlantic Television Network News.
E-hailing drivers under the aegis of the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, Rivers State Branch, has showed appreciation to the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by the Speaker, Martin Samehuli, member representing Ikwere constituency, Honorable Prince Lemchi Yeche, the leadership of the State Assembly, and the members for hearing and taking strong actions in favor of e-hailing drivers in the state. ATN News completes the report.
Great one! Grace! Greatest of the greatest of one!
United we are stronger! E-hailing drivers under the aegis of Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, Rivers State Branch, had shown appreciation to the Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Speaker Martins Amehule, member representing Ikwere constituency, Honorable Prince Lemchi Nyeche, the leader of the State Assembly, and the members for hearing and taking strong action in favor of e-hailing drivers in the state. The App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, led by their chairman, Comrade Loresha Chioma, led a solidarity walk through the streets of Port Harcourt to the Rivers State House of Assembly in GRA Port Harcourt, carrying posters with different inscriptions to thank and commend the State Assembly. Addressing newsmen at the entrance of the Rivers State House of Assembly complex, the acting chairman of Atom in Port Harcourt, Comrade Loresha Chioma, decried maltreatment, neglect, extortion, and slavery, despite being called partners in the boat business. She added that all efforts to reach out to the boat company has proved abortive, with drivers, many with family responsibilities, the harsh economic situations in Nigeria. The boat company has remained adamant to meet their demands. Comrade Loresha Chioma commended the Rivers State House of Assembly for accepting their petitions and taking swift action, describing their action as true representation of the people.
To Rivers State House of Assembly, we are the Amalgamated Union of the App-Based Transporters of Nigeria. In other words, we are the drivers that carry everyone around using boats, Uber, InDrive, and other apps in Rivers State, particularly in Port Harcourt. For years now, we have suffered in the hands of the app companies. Every effort to reach out to them has proved abortive. Our drivers have died on active trips. We work on draconian, demonic, and wicked modus operandi and so-called bonuses. We are blocked arbitrarily without fair hearing. Both and other app companies call us their partners, but we are treated worse than slaves.
Comrade Chioma, who appealed that the app companies be investigated for tax evasion for incessant taxation without accountability, also called on the Rivers State House of Assembly to enact an e-hailing law that will protect the rights of the drivers.
We have sought negotiation, they refused. We have reached out to them, we have cried out, all to no avail. And this battle has gone on for years in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. In the wake of the crunching economy, it has been tough for drivers to survive. And we have cried out. But the more we cry, the worse things get. And out of our pain, we cried to Rivers State House of Assembly. And Rivers State House of Assembly heard our cry. I am yet to see in Rivers State, since the history of Rivers State House of Assembly, the union that cried and the assembly heard with the speed of light and responded to us. We want to thank the Rivers State House of Assembly under the leadership of Right Honorable Martins Chike Amehuni. Yes. Indeed, this is what we call representation of the people. The Rivers State House of Assembly has shown us that they have the people at heart. Silver or gold we do not have, but yet they heard when we cried. Yes.
other stakeholders of the union, including the Rivers State Acting Secretary, GRA branch chairman, amongst others, took turn to express their grievances and their demands.
We have lost many of our drivers. There is no security protection in time of our ride. So today we come to the speaker to be able to look into the challenge.
We are here begging or pleading with the Rivers State House of Assembly to put the right regulation in place so that these excesses can be curtailed, to say no to this slavery of Nigerians.
The reason why we came here today, we want the Rivers State House of Assembly to ban boats. So be it.
The painful part that I feel is the life of our drivers and the challenge, the both in-drive and Uber that are making us to be slave in their hands because of their pricing. And we that are here, we are standing on this ground to say enough is enough.
It's paramount to actually come out to air this out to the Rivers State House of Assembly or to the state government that we're actually suffering in the hands of these app companies. These app companies have been extorting us for years. They claim to collect taxes that they are paying to the state government, and they don't remit these taxes to the state government.
Ajurun was somewhere. Atlantic Television Network, Port Harcourt.
Edo State Police Command has confirmed the abduction of passengers along the Benin-Akure Highway and the rescue of 11 out of the 18 victims taken by unknown gunmen. Eyewitnesses said the incident occurred around Obarere village in Ovia, Northeast Local Government area of Edo State, while the passengers were traveling in a vehicle belonging to a popular commercial transport operator, while the police public relations officer, ASP Eno Ikoedem, revealed that efforts were ongoing to rescue the remaining victims. He said the joint security team combed the surrounding bushes and forested areas in search of the abducted passengers and the perpetrators, stressing that the rescued passengers have since been reunited with their families, while security operatives continue efforts to secure the release of the remaining 7 victims. The police spokesperson assured residents that security would be intensified across Edo State, particularly as the Yulita season approaches. Edo State Governor Senator Monday Okpebolo has presented 939.85 billion naira 2026 appropriation bill, christened the Budget of Hope and Growth, to the Edo State House of Assembly. Presenting the budget, Okpebolo said the 2026 fiscal plan was carefully designed to build on the foundation laid in 2025, while expanding the reach of government programs to directly impact the lives of Edo people across all sectors of the economy. According to the governor, the budget prioritizes critical areas of sustainable development, including security, infrastructure, agriculture, education, job creation, and healthcare, stressing that his administration remains committed to delivering development the people can see and feel. A breakdown of the proposal shows a total expenditure of 939.85 billion naira, with capital expenditure standing at 637 billion naira, representing 68% of the budget, while recurrent expenditure is pegged at 302 billion naira, accounting for 32%, adding that the strong emphasis on capital spending reflects his administration's determination to fast-track development through strategic investments in roads, schools, hospitals, water supply, housing, and other high-impact economic projects across the state. The governor assured Edo residents that the governor would not impose unnecessary financial burdens on citizens, but the administration would instead intensify efforts to strengthen revenue systems, block leakages, and improve the finance management. While on governance and institutional reforms, the governor said public trust has been restored through a more participatory democratic process, including the swearing-in of 3 judges previously sidelined, the re-establishment of the customary court system, and strengthen traditional institutions and intergovernmental relationships. Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has commended the people of the state for their support for the All Progressives Congress as the administration of President Bola Tinubu. Aiyedatiwa said the achievements recorded by the president in over 2 years in office had attracted members of opposition parties to join the ruling APC, while several governors and members of the People's Democratic Party had recently defected to APC, adding that all elective positions in Ondo State are currently occupied by APC members. The governor spoke during a visit to Okeo Agbe, the headquarters of Akoko Northwest Local Government Area, where he was received by traditional rulers, community leaders, and APC members. Amid fanfare, and the visit was also to convey the party's decision at both the national and state levels that Tinubu would be its candidate in the 2027 presidential election. Ayedatiwa also said Tinubu's reforms had opened up opportunities for economic growth in Ondo State, citing the ongoing dualization of the Ikare-Akungba road as evidence of development in the Akoko axis, and urged APC members and various groups to work together to avoid internal crisis, stressing that tolerance and cooperation were necessary to achieve the party's objectives ahead of 2027. President of Ghana, Dr. John Mahama, has been honored with the chieftaincy title of Are Atayeto Odua of the Source by the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, in recognition of his efforts in promoting African unity and regional cooperation. The ceremony took place in Ile-Ife, Osun State, and speaking shortly after the investiture, Mahama spoke on the importance of fostering harmony between Nigeria and Ghana and called for continued engagement with countries in the Sahel region where civilian administrations have been overthrown by military interventions. He urged West African nations not to ostracize Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, but rather encourage their return to the economic community of West African states, and highlighted the shared history and cultural links between the two countries, noting that some people in Ghana trace their origins to Ile-Ife. He dedicated his chieftaincy to Tinubu, praising the Nigerian leaders' friendship and support over the years. The event was attended by prominent figures, including Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, Osun State Deputy Governor Kola Adeosi, Owa Oboko of Ijesa Land, Oba Adesuyi Hastrop, Olofa of Ofa, Oba Mufutao Gbadamonsi, and the Ovation magazine publisher Dele Momodu. In his remarks, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke, through his deputy Kola Adewusi, commended the Oni for honoring Mahama, describing the Ghanaian leader as a tireless mediator committed to conflict resolution and democratic consolidation. Labour Party has strongly criticized the proposed 2026 1.68 trillion naira budget of Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun, describing it as unsustainable and harmful to the long-term economic well-being of the state. The party has equally said it will not enter into any alliance with other political parties ahead of the 2027 general elections, insisting that it will field candidates for all elected positions in the state, and also determined to end what he described as maladministration by the ruling All Progressives Congress in the state. The Southwest Vice Chairman of the party, Abayomi Arabambi, in a statement, made the remarks during the inauguration of the new executive members of the party's Ogun State chapter, held at the press center of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Iwe or Iroyin, Abeokuta. Arabambi demanded a clear, credible, and conservative financing framework that would reduce dependence on volatile revenue sources and debt financing, while ensuring that all proposed projects are subjected to rigorous and independent assessment, and called on the lawmakers to consider moderating the budget's growth to a more sustainable level, demanding a clear, credible, and conservative financing plan that reduces dependency on volatile debt-based sources. Meanwhile, the newly elected state chairman of the party, Mrs. Oluwa Bukola Soyoye, appreciated the party for the confidence reposed in her, promising to mobilize more people into the party with the sole aim of taking over governance of the state in 2027. Suspected gunmen have attacked headers along Gero Road in Jos, South Local Government area of Plateau State, killing 13 cows and leaving 12 others injured. The Plateau State Chairman of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, Ibrahim Yusuf Babayo, disclosed the incident to journalists, saying it occurred on Sunday evening while the herders were peacefully grazing in the area. Babayo described the attack as unprovoked and condemned the violence. He said the matter had been reported to security operatives under Operation Enduring Peace, Sector 6, who later visited the scene. He also appealed to members of the association to remain calm and avoid any form of retaliation, warning that the attackers may be trying to trigger further violence, stressing that the herders had not caused any trouble and were only carrying out their normal grazing activities before the attack. Federal High Court in Lafia, Nasarawa State, has refused to grant bail to social media activist Comrade Ibrahim Kabiru Dala on 7 charges linked to alleged defamation on social media, and the case followed a complaint by the secretary to the Nasarawa State government, Dr. Labaran Shuaibu Magaji, senior advocate of Nigeria. But Dala denied all the allegations against him. The court ordered that he should remain in custody at the Lafia Correctional Center and fixed January 21, 2026 for the continuation of the case. Meanwhile, some activists have continued to call for fairness in the handling of the case. Niger State Police Command says it has arrested 6 suspects for offenses bordering on arms stealing, kidnapping, unlawful possession of ammunition, and phone snatching, among others. The command's public relations officer, Wasiu Abiodun, who disclosed this in a statement, said the suspects were arrested during multiple operations across the state. According to him, police operatives acting on credible intelligence that one Zuwaira Usman, specialized in transporting ammunition for hoodlums, arrested the suspect, and the suspect confessed during interrogation that she met one Lawali in Birnin Gwari, Kaduna State. He said the suspect confessed to abducting a 3-year-old child and collecting 1.4 million naira as ransom before releasing him, and also admitted to kidnapping a 4-year-old boy and another 3-year-old child within Kontagura, from whom a combined ransom of 850,000 naira was collected before their release. The PPRO further said another operation on November 30th led to the arrest of one Mohammed Mahmoud of the Zuba area, who was found in possession of a locally fabricated pistol loaded with 1 cartridge during a stop-and-search operation. Abiodun further said on the same date, 2 suspected armed robbers, Adamu Usman and Umar Mohammed Bello, were arrested in the Kagako area in connection with an armed robbery incident. Niger State Governor Mohammed Bago has terminated the appointments of 30 special advisors as part of efforts to restructure governance in the state. The decision was declared on Tuesday by the governor's chief press secretary, Boloji Ibrahim, who said the move was aimed at revamping the administration to enhance efficiency and effectiveness in line with the governor's new Niger agenda. He disclosed this during his maiden council meeting with his newly sworn-in commissioner at the council chamber in Government House, Mina, adding that the action was part of Governor Bago's broader plan to rejig and reposition key portfolios for improved service delivery. The statement also said the governor appreciated them for their sacrifices and contributions towards the success of his administration and wished them well in their future endeavors. 10 people who were abducted by bandits in Malum Fashi local government area of Katsina State have regained their freedom following a local peace agreement that was facilitated by the council chairman, Honorable Muntari Abdullahi City, who led a delegation to the bandits' hideout. According to a post shared on X on Tuesday by security analyst Zagazola Makama, the release is part of ongoing local efforts to negotiate peace with bandit groups in the area. The police are yet to issue an official statement regarding the incident. Operatives of the Borno State Police Command have defused an unexploded ordnance planted under a network masked at Chuksun Federal Low-Cost Area of Maiduguri. A statement by the Police Public Relations Officer of the command, ASP Nahum Daso, indicated that the 13th team made the recovery following a report received by the Divisional Police Officer, ICE Police Division. The statement said the Borno State Police Command, under the leadership of the CP Naziru Abdulmajid, has recorded another operational success with the recovery of an unexploded ordnance in Maiduguri, thereby averting a potential explosion and threat to public safety. Following the operation, he said the command conducted sensitization and safety awareness sessions for community members while stressing on the importance of vigilance, prompt reporting of suspicious objects, and cooperation with security agencies to prevent security breaches. The spokesperson reassured residents of the command's unwavering commitment to the protection of lives and property, while urging the public to continue to support the police with timely and credible information. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We will be back after this break. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of our stories. President Bola Tinubu has pledged to carry forward the governing ethos which he ascribed to the late former President Muhammadu Buhari: security, discipline, integrity, governance, and social justice, stressing that his truest tribute to the late Nigerian leader is to continue his legacy with results to show. Speaking at the State House, Abuja, during the launch of From Soldier to Statesman, the legacy of Muhammadu Buhari by Dr. Charles Omole, the president framed Buhari's impact as a standard his administration would deliberately uphold. Tinubu described the former leader as one who embodied quiet strength, discipline, and an enduring grace rooted in service, adding that the Buhari name will continue to inspire noble service for generations. Tinubu said the value of Buhari's leadership is in the trust he left behind, and stressed that need for Nigerians to reminisce on their political partnership that culminated in a watershed transition in 2015. Senate has mandated the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, to investigate viral social media reports alleging the collapse and, in some instances, death of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. The decision followed a point of order raised under Order 42 by Senator Titus Zam, who voiced concern over the spread of the reports within the past 48 hours. Channels reports and described the rumors as disturbing and unacceptable, stressing that the Senate President, as the nation's number 3 citizen, should not be subjected to such misinformation. According to him, those responsible for spreading the falsehoods should not only be investigated, but also sanctioned in line with the law to deter others from engaging in similar acts. House of Representatives have commenced a comprehensive investigation into Nigeria's increasing rate of drug abuse, pledging to hold those culpable to account to safeguard the nation's public health sector. Addressing stakeholders at the opening ceremony of an investigative hearing in Abuja, the chairman of the House Ad Hoc Committee on Drugs, Trafficking, Alcohol and Tobacco Abuse, Oluwatimi Adelegbe, described drug abuse as a threat to the country's public health sector and called on government and stakeholders to collaborate to stamp out the menace. He lamented that across the country, Indian hemp is smoked freely on the streets like cigarettes. Methamphetamine using spreading across the country at an alarming rate, while codeine-based cough syrups are sold almost like soft drinks, adding that tramadol 200 mg is trafficked with the same level of coordination as hard narcotics, while cheap hazardous alcoholic mixtures are destroying young men and women in motor parks, campuses and marketplaces nationwide. He further lamented that the unchecked influx of substandard pharmaceuticals, fake spirits and unregistered products into Nigerian markets, even as he blamed weak enforcement at ports, airports and land borders for the increasing rate of drug abuse in the country. According to him, the probe was neither anti-business nor a witch hunt, but an accountability mission aimed at protecting public health and national security. Meanwhile, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime have raised fresh concerns over the scale of drug use in Nigeria, describing the situation as alarming and significantly above the global average. Ambassador Abdullahi Bakoji Adamu, Country Director of the International Human Rights Commission, IHRC, Nigeria chapter, has warned that emergency powers granted to the president must not be used to override the mandate freely given to elected officials by the people. Bakoji reacted to the recent Supreme Court ruling affirming the president's authority to proclaim a state of emergency and remove elected officials, describing the judgment as one that requires caution and strong constitutional safeguards. He acknowledged that emergency powers exist in constitutional democracies and are meant to help governments respond swiftly to serious threats such as insecurity, breakdown of public order, or national emergencies, and the court's ruling may be seen as strengthening the executive's capacity to maintain stability in times of crisis, stressing that the democracy is not only about the action, but about the respect for the rule of law and the will of the electorate. He also warned that emergency rule naturally concentrates power in the hands of the executive and could weaken democratic institutions if not properly checked, stressing that the core principle of constitutional democracy is separation of powers. Emergency powers, by their nature, place enormous authority in the executive scope and oversight, risk of undermining the legislature and reducing judicial scrutiny. According to him, history has shown that broad emergency powers can be abused if they are not clearly regulated and closely monitored, stressing that emergency measures should be proportionate, time-bound, and subject to effective legislative and judicial oversight that must not become a substitute for constitutional process or democratic governance. He further said the ruling may offer clarity on executive authority during emergencies and also place a responsibility on all arms of government to ensure that such powers are exercised responsibly and in strict accordance with constitutional principles, noting that the true test of democracy is how constitutional values are protected during difficult times, and emergency powers must retain exceptional, accountable, and always focused on the public interest without undermining the foundations of democracy. People's Democratic Party on Monday criticized the Supreme Court's judgment affirming the 6-month state of emergency imposed on Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu on March 18, 2025, warning that the decision sets a dangerous precedent for Nigeria's democracy. The opposition party expressed concern that the Apex Court's ruling, which upheld the suspension of a democratically elected governor and state lawmakers, could weaken the country's federal structure and open the door to authoritarian governance. The Supreme Court delivered the judgment in a suit filed in April by PDP governors, challenging the constitutionality of President Tinubu's decision to suspend Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy Professor Ngozi Odu, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, following a prolonged political crisis in the state. In place of the elected governor, the president appointed a retired naval chief, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, as sole administrator to run the affairs of the state for 6 months, stressing that at the time of the declaration, Fubara was a member of the PDP, prompting governors elected on the party's platform to institute legal action against the federal government. The Supreme Court delivered its judgment on Monday, nearly 3 months after the emergency rule had elapsed on September 23rd, with Fubara, his deputy, and the lawmakers having since resumed their constitutional duties. While in its rulings, the Apex Court affirmed the president's constitutional authority to declare a state of emergency and to suspend elected state officials during such a period. Reacting, the PDP warned that the judgment poses a grave threat to Nigeria's democracy, constitutional order, and system of federalism if allowed to stand without clear safeguards, while a statement by International Publicity Secretary Ini Ememobong said the interpretation of the ruling may embolden the federal government to undermine state autonomy and dismantle constitutionally elected institutions under the guise of restoring peace and security. African Democratic Congress ADC has strongly criticized the Supreme Court over its recent ruling affirming the president's power to suspend elected governors and state assemblies during a state of emergency, warning that the judgment poses a grave threat to Nigeria's federalism and democratic order. A statement signed by its National Publicity Secretary, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, the party described the decision as one of that effectively creates a constitutional tyrant by concentrating excessive powers in the presidency, adding that although the ruling appears academic on the surface, its implications are far-reaching and dangerous. The party said the Apex Court held that once a state of emergency is declared, the president has the discretion to determine the measures required to restore peace and security, including taking what it termed extraordinary measures, and also argue that such wide discretion could be easily abused. The opposition party said the judgment contradicts the constitutional principle that no arm of tire of government is superior to another, insisting that its practical effects places state governments firmly under presidential control, and also questioned the safeguards cited by the Supreme Court to prevent abuse of presidential powers, including proportionality, legislative oversight, and judicial review. The party further argued that judicial review has been compromised by the ruling itself, and further warned that the country is sliding towards what it described as constitutional tyranny, a form of autocracy achieved through legal mechanisms rather than military coup, stressing that recent developments have shown that neither the legislature nor the judiciary can be relied upon to halt what it described as Nigeria's democratic decline. Body of Senior Advocates of Nigeria has warned that Nigeria's federal system is under serious threat due to the dominance of a single political party, stressing that the judiciary must remain strong where opposition is weak, adding that the current political landscape has weakened federalism and virtually eliminated effective opposition, thereby placing greater responsibility on the judiciary to protect the Constitution and the rule of law. The body made the remarks in a speech delivered at a special court session marking the ceremonial commencement of the 2025/26 legal year of the Federal High Court and for the first annual Judges Conference held in Abuja, adding that currently All Progressives Congress controls at least 26 of the 36 states in federation, with opposition parties decrying a tilt towards a one-party state. In the address, he said democracy must be innovative and must defend the law and the constitution and employ every inherent sanction of a court of law, while urging judges to rise to the challenge of safeguarding constitutionally guaranteed rights. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekere-Ekun, acknowledged that public expectations of the judiciary had risen significantly in recent years, stressing that the judiciary remained the last line of defense for the Constitution and the right is guaranteed, adding that the expectations were essential expressions of respect for litigants, counsel, and citizens whose time, resources, and confidence are invested in the justice system. She also said it would be unrealistic to ignore the fact that public confidence in judicial institutions was fragile and that perceptions, whether fair or otherwise, carried real consequences, and further urged the bench and the bar must remain partners in the administration of justice. Global non-governmental organization Amnesty International says over 2,500 people were killed in different violent attacks in Plateau State in 6 months from May to November 2025. Amnesty International disclosed this in its quarterly report that over 50 local communities were affected in the attack, while more than 29,554 people were displaced, out of which 93 were children, while 16,461 were women, and are now scattered around internally displaced people's camps across the states. The organization said it has actively monitored the attacks, especially in places like Bokos, Bakin Ladi, Mangu, Riyom, and Bassa local government areas, and the pattern of the attack has always been the same, with the attackers often suspected to be Fulani militias, while a few others have been carried out by local youths in retaliation. The group also frowned at the response by the state government and security agencies, who it said have either been slow in acting or putting in measures to end the escalating waves of violence and killings in the state, and also condemned what it described as security failures by Nigerian authorities and called for investigations and justice for victims of attacks by armed groups. Amnesty International condemns the security lapses from the state government and security agencies, who have not been proactive enough to put measures in place to end the escalating waves of violence in the state, and attributes the high death toll to inexcusable security lapses and the government's failure to protect rural communities, and further urged Nigerian authorities to launch impartial investigations into the attacks and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. Nigeria Police Force has declared its plans to resume enforcement of tinted glass permits. A statement signed by CSP Benjamin Hundeyin, the force public relations officer, said the reinforcement of the policy is pending the final determination of the matter currently before the court, and the decision follows a careful review of emerging security concerns and need to ensure the safety of all citizens. It said the enforcement of the tinted glass permit will resume on 2nd January 2026, adding that the force suspended enforcement to allow motorists ample opportunity to regularize their documentation and complete the registration process without pressure. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Agbetokun, has assured the public that the renewed enforcement will be carried out with utmost professionalism, respect for the rights of citizens, and in accordance with extant laws. The statement, however, urged motorists who require the tinted glass permit to apply through the approved channels and ensure that their vehicles comply with legal procedures. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, on Monday exchanged sharp words over allegations of political bias in the agency's ongoing investigation of the ex-minister. Malami demanded immediate recusal of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukoyede, from his ongoing investigation, alleging bias, personal vendetta, and political persecution linked to his recent defection to the African Democratic Congress. A statement by his media aide, Mohammad Bello Doka Malami, accused the EFCC of conducting what he described as an illegal detention, media harassment, and procedural abuse, insisting that the probe against him was not given by law enforcement considerations, but by deep-seated historical animosity of the part of the EFCC leadership. However, the EFCC, in a statement by its spokesperson, Dede Oyewale, described as unfounded the allegations of bias and also rejected all claims of political targeting, insisting that the Commission's actions are strictly guided by his Establishment Act. Oyewale also warned against attempts to amend the EFCC's enabling law to shield politicians from prosecution, describing such efforts as contrary to the national interest, adding that former Justice Minister had anchored his claims of political vendetta on events dating back to his tenure as AGF, when the federal government constituted the Justice Ayo Salami Judicial Commission of Inquiry to investigate allegations of corruption and abuse of office within the EFCC. And now to our business news. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics say Nigeria generated about 12.81 trillion naira from crude oil exports in the third quarter of 2025. According to the latest foreign trade in goods statistics, crude oil accounted for 56.14% of the country's total exports during the period, pointing to a recovery in oil export earnings within the year. The increase further reinforces the petroleum sector's dominance in Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings. However, the NBS data showed a less robust performance from non-oil exports. And now to our international tidbits. Government of Benin Republic has jailed at least 30 people, most of whom are soldiers, accused of links to a foiled coup attempt earlier this month. This is coming after soldiers appeared on national television on December 7 to declare that President Patrice Talon had been deposed, and the attempted coup was swiftly defeated by loyalist army forces within the help of the Nigerian Air Force and French Special Forces. Several people were killed, and the alleged co-leader, Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, and other munitions soldiers are still on the run. But at least 30 accused people appeared before a special prosecutor for the courts for economic crimes and terrorism in the city of Cotonou. Meanwhile, Chabi Yayi, son of Beninese president and current opposition figure Thomas Boni Yayi, who was earlier arrested, was released after being questioned but remains under prosecution in connection with the coup bid for reasons that are not known. He is alleged to be a member of the opposition party led by his father, while President Talon was accused by critics of authoritarianism in a country once praised for its democratic dynamism. Convener of the Alternative, Otumba Segun Shewumi, has quoted the U.S. Congressman Riley Moore as saying the Nigerian presidency may be underestimating the gravity of the worsening security situation across the country, especially in the north, warning that current approaches are insufficient. Moore Shomi also stressed the need for Nigeria to be sincere with the United States in tackling the country's worsening security and humanitarian situation, adding that the U.S. views Nigeria's internal crisis with unprecedented seriousness, describing Washington's posture as firm, focused, and deeply concerned. According to Showomi, the American authorities have conducted extensive consultations with government and civil society stakeholders both in Washington and in Nigeria, adding that the humanitarian impact of the violence has drawn significant global attention, with the U.S. no longer treating the matter as a political dispute but as a structural crisis with far-reaching implications. Shomi also said the United States is willing to support Nigeria, but expects the government to demonstrate sincerity and seriousness in addressing the crisis, and further expressed concern that the Nigerian presidency may be underestimating the gravity of the situation, warning that current approaches are insufficient and could further widen the credibility gap between government messaging and the lived reality of citizens. The briefing also highlighted internal factors undermining national credibility, including fragmented messaging, avoidance of responsibility, rising ethnic rhetoric, and inconsistent communication that are eroding public trust and weakening Nigeria's standing before the international community. And to our sports news. Egypt will likely rest captain Mohamed Salah and forward Omar Mamouche for tonight's pre-25 Africa Cup of Nations friendly Nigeria. According to field goal head coach Hossam Hassan, will keep the Premier League stars out of the game. This is coming after Salah and Mamouche linked up with their international teammates on Monday. They are expected to play an important role for the Pharaohs in Morocco. And now to our entertainment news. Record producer Sam Clef has accused singer Davido of spearheading toxicity and rivalry in the Nigerian music industry. He disclosed this while reacting to a tweet by fellow producer turned singer Fuse, expressing concern over the toxicity and comparisons in the Nigerian music industry, adding that there was mutual respect in the Nigerian music industry when Wizkid and Olamide held sway as the young stars until Davido joined. He said with Davido's entry, toxicity, the music industry wasn't supposed to be competitive or a rivalry ground, and his submission sparked mixed reactions, with many berating him for singling Davido for the blame for the decadence in the music industry. Meanwhile, Davido is yet to react to some Clef's allegations. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Fubara decries 90 lawsuits, stopping housing projects in Rivers. Tinubu pledges to sustain Buhari's legacy. PDP faults Supreme Court's verdict as dangerous for democracy. FJ earns 12.81 trillion naira from exports in third quarter. U.S. congressman wants Nigeria over worsening insecurity. Egypt to rest Salah for Super Eagles friendly. Davido brought toxicity, says Sam Clef. I am Francis Necker. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, now X, at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. Remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching.